It's a beautiful Wednesday morning in the city of Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki. And this morning I'm starting with Vanguard on the paper review. Vanguard is leading with minimum wage, give cost to government today. Tinubu orders finance minister as Labour suspend strike for 5 days. Says negotiation should be completed as soon as possible. Why we suspended strike? That's from NLC and TUC. Committee on Minimum Wage adopts agenda for today's meeting. Senate Action Aid asks federal government to expedite action to stop industrial unrest. Attorney General Federation should prosecute states that fail to pay 30,000 naira minimum wage. That's according to Falano. You can see that story on page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. And on page 7, Edo Ondoguba, INEC extends the voters registration deadline to June 9. On the business economy, labor leaders must reconsider a wage demand to avoid layoffs. That's according to Riwani. And right beside that, there's a picture showing Ambassador Andy Liu left presenting a Vanguard Businessman of the Year award to Dr. Gabriel, CEO, Rain Oil Limited, during the 2023 Vanguard Personality of the Year award held at the Eco Hotel Lagos. And picture below the banner shows a former president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, Delta State Governor Sharif, and second left representative of Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Misfura, and Justice Teresa, also Chief Judge of Delta State, Mr. Gowo, and Speaker Delta State House of Assembly, and Senator Ned Walker during the official commissioning of the Delta State High Court complex to mark the governor's 1 year in office yesterday. And on page 8, editors are increasing the spate of journalist abductions. 30 feared dead as mine site collapses in Niger State. You can see that on page 13. And lastly, on Vanguard newspaper, CNG, federal government targets a $4.4 billion petrol import savings. You can see that on page 13. Now, the Guardian newspaper, Guardian is leading with World Environment Day. World Environment Day, how illegal mining, deforestation, all has left Nigerians poorer. You can see that on page 6. NGE condemns increasing rate of journalist abduction. Osun APC expels Aregbe Shola, warns members against associating with ex-governors group. Bandits abduct varsity lecturers' family in Katsina. Strike, Tinubu blinks, gives finance minister 48 hours to table action plan. Inspector General of Police warns senior officers against extorting personnel over promotional interview. And lastly, on the Guardian newspaper, INEC extends a CVR exercise, captures 120,458 new voters in Edo and Ondo. You can see that on page 7. Now at the Punch newspaper, Punch is leading with minimum wage talks. Labour considers 100,000 naira as Tinubu issues ultimatum. President orders minister to calculate cost. Labour gives 1 week ultimatum. And here there are 3 pictures. The writer saying that 1 killed, 50 miners trapped as a pit collapses in Niger. Police hunt for tenant as landlord dies during rent face-off. CNG will reduce petrol imports by $4.4 billion. That's according to federal government. PSC unveils 10,000 recruits, drop 61,092 applicants. So it's above the banner. Naira may settle at 1,450 to $1 by December. That's according to Fitch Rating. And lastly, on the Punch, local government funds reps back a federal government suit against governor. Now the Nation, heading to present a new wage template. You can see that on page 2. Owando's 104.1 billion naira profits rallies investors. NAMA seeks a retention of more revenue for operations. 1 million CNG buses will cut 50 million litre petrol use by 20%. Government to save $4.4 billion yearly. You can see that on news page 3 of the Nation newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break for the analysis. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki. And joining me to analyze the front pages of the dailies this morning is Mr. Gbero Olajuigbe. He's the Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. Good morning, Mr. Gbero.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you.
Yes, and let's go straight to the story. Bola Tinubu yesterday gave others Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, to prepare the cost implications of a new minimum wage and present an affordable, sustainable, and realistic figure today. What do you think about the president's direction?
Well, I think that is good enough and that is fair enough with the ranking as solution to the strike that will not serve anyone any good, both on the side of the labor and the country that is yearning for growth. Where is the labor in terms of reducing the tariff on electricity? What is the agreement? Because that was what they went for things. One, reversion of the electricity tariff. At the same time, minimum wage issue. We have had the minimum wage issue should not dominate the situation, because part of the way of making whatever President Tinubu will come up with meaningful is that you have an environment that will not influence inflation again or cripple disposable income. Electricity tariff is one. For us, another thing is that another environment factors that needs to be considered is that of high cost of fuel. The high cost of fuel is very, very determined to returning to economic sanity in the country. So there was need for labor to have given the condition that a percentage be dedicated of our oil production, oil output be dedicated to local refinery, and to the end that when it gets to the fuel pump, the price will not be more than 250 naira. That will instantly reduce the cost of basic items, particularly food, at this particular material time that we are talking. So if it is all about increase in salary, of course, worse inflationary trend is awaiting everybody. When you used to tinker with the environment, because look at the cost of what they call ordinary pepper and tomato in the market today. Today, you buy an average family go to market to buy tomato, at least planning to buy tomato, as if it's buying motor. So we need to consider a lot of things. Or the salary, whatever the president and his team will come up with, for that to be meaningful. What is the essence of 100,000 naira that cannot buy pepper or tomato, or that cannot buy a bag of rice? Those are issues that ought to have gone into the negotiation, not about. If you say that, okay, if this thing goes up, your salary will should be jacked up too. That is not the logic about returning our economy to ground of sanity. So it's good. Let us see what the finance minister Edu will come up with in terms of what the salary will look like, and how the market will equally respond to that. Whatever may be the outcome, there is need to equally consider the private sector. I have said it. To me, I have no objection to, no matter how the level of salary the NLC and TUC have been anticipating. But the fact is that we have private sector that is not working. And also beyond that, they should have even told the president and his team to cut down the cost of governance. It is senseless for a government that is battling with hyperinflation combined with high debt profile to be making junketing around the globe to the extent that in the last few months, both the president and the vice president have spent close to 4 billion naira on junketing, fruitless journey that will not contribute to our economy. Let nobody deceive Nigeria. Any governor or president that is going out looking for foreign investors, he is deceiving him or herself. There is nothing about Nigeria economic environment that is shrouded in mystery to these foreign investors. They know more than you about your own economic environment, your political environment, the social environment. So we need to be concentrate on the home. We can't be losing companies and factories at home while you are seeking foreign investor. What type of logic is that in economy? It has no logic in economy. If you can't keep those who are at home presently and currently, then what is the hope of those coming who have not started? So those are issues that should come up with all this minimum wage. Government is happy that it's making money, but that is not money in the long run. Making money out of you have rich government and poor people. That is anti-development. It doesn't speak to the logic of economy, development economy. The essence of the development economy is that you grow your people, improve their standard of living, bring down the cost of living to the extent that the people are happy to pay taxes
Mr.
on the income. But now you have companies shutting down; they are not earning income. If if the outcome of this review is not palatable to the private sector, the few remaining will equally shut down because they won't be able to pay salary. They won't be able to meet up with the cost of production in a very hostile and unprofitable environment.
Mr. Agbero, can the governors pay the minimum wage, the new minimum wage that the government is looking at? Because the 30,000 naira minimum wage for a long time, some of the governors were unable to pay.
But they can pay for taking private jets from their states to Abuja, running into thousands of dollars and thousands of pounds. They can afford that. They can afford to live life of profligacy, life that is purely hedonistic, that has no economic value. They can afford that. Governors can afford to appoint thousands of PAs and SAs that are fruitlessly needed in the economy of like Nigeria. But they won't have. You can see that they have been suspiciously silent all along because they are waiting and they want to repudiate responsibility for this minimum wage. Possibly they will say that they were not part of negotiation and everything. I think that I can equally describe that as criminal silence, looking for when it will come and then they will repudiate responsibility for implementation. So it's not that they can't pay, but it's because they can afford to live life that is extravagantly and not in agreement with the current economic situations and environment in Nigeria. Those are the issues.
All right, let's move away from that and talk about this one. The House of Representatives expressed its support for the legal action taken by the federal government against the 36 states of the Federation to enforce the autonomy of the local government. What's your take on this one?
Well, I think my take is that it's good if local government becomes autonomy. They obtain their autonomy and, of course, they operate as the true third tier of government in Nigeria. But then it's still subjected to the state. But beyond this, it's like particularly the president, Tinubu, shooting himself at on the foot, in the sense that when he was a governor of Lagos State, this is the same thing Obasanjo wanted to do by rejecting his creation of 37 states, 37 LCD, making Lagos has 20 states. If you have to live by the constitution, like they want to do now. They want Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution and define local government as an autonomous entity. That means that Lagos State money should only be restricted to 20 local governments that are constitutionally approved and not to 57 FDA created by the former administration of President Tinubu, who was the governor in Lagos State there, on which he fought Obasanjo. So if you have to apply Constitution, if you have to follow Constitution, you must follow through in all respect. The ruling of the Supreme Court then was that states can create local government, but they must ensure that what they have created is imported into the Constitution, which has not been done since Governor Tinubu of Lagos State created such local government. Now, if the federal government wins its case in court against the 36 states, the implication will be that the money for Lagos State or any other state that have created the so-called development area could only go to the constitutionally recognized local government areas. So it should reflect on his antecedent, what he has done and what he has fought Obasanjo on, and of course we are back to that same table now. So I think it's still the grinding mill of justice. Though it grants slowly, well, at the end of the day, we hope to see justice and everybody's sense is reset to the fact that we have a constitution and that if you want to live like this, you must obey the constitution to the letter.
But Mr.
And one thing that is not clear up till now, but even though we in word and in statement, when we are on television or whatever media like this, we do state that the local government is the third tier of government. But in the sense of it, it is not provided for in the Constitution as such. Local government is still regarded, even in the Constitution, as an appendage of the state. That is the problem. So we must prepare to go the whole hog, accepting that Lagos has 20 local government recognized by the Constitution. Then, if they win the case, those money should go to 20 local government and not to 57 LCDA.
So, what are the potential benefits associated with local government?
Aside from the autonomy, even the state that has the autonomy, what have the people getting from the state? Even the state that has autonomy, until Nigerian citizens become active and participate in the affair of the government, of their government, and put people they have elected under pressure, we will continue to have problem in this country. This government, we have unaccountable government at federal, local, and state level. Is the federal government accountable for anything? When you ask them not to, how can you be accountable and spend like somebody who is not expecting tomorrow to come? Reckless spending. Money that is purely manifestly unconstitutional. For example, the 90 billion Hajj support and 90 billion naira Hajj support is manifestly unconstitutional because Nigeria is a secular state. So the secularity of Nigeria is not preserved by such spending, and it was recklessly done because it was unnecessary, unacceptable, illegal, and immoral. So why are we blaming the local government alone? So if they create local government, is it not going to operate within the social milieu or governance milieu of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that has produced rulers that are arrogantly unaccountable, arrogantly, recklessly spending the money of the people without diligence, to diligence of another Sokoto government whenever we move support of state or what. But specifically, we did this when there was market by the type of we run that nobody can challenge them. If it's sincere, if there is allocation for the for local government, the debate is your responsibility to send it to the local government. It under law, there are laws for that. It's misappropriation of funds, and that is why I've been saying that immunity should only protect the governors. The only person that should enjoy full immunity in Nigeria is the president. And because, of course, let us chaos. For government, there must be restrictive immunity. Immunity to administrative issues. If you make administrative mistake or commit administrative error, you cannot be sued or challenged. That one is acceptable. But when you commit crime as a governor, what sense immunity are we talking about? So we equally have, that is the crisis of our constitution. We have a constitution that is preserving malfeasance and at the same time strengthening or giving refuge to rulers who are characteristically roguery, who steal. You can't prosecute them when they are in office, even if the evidence are there. That is crime against the state and against the people. So we should look at this holistically, and that is one of the reasons we can't look at our constitution as a good ground norm. If we want to restructure Nigeria, we should do it and go the whole hog. For example, this National Assembly just within 2-3 days, less than 1 week or two, they changed the Nigerian national anthem. Who does that? They didn't follow their own. So operating government is outrightly lawless in Nigeria. There was no public contribution to or debate or to the national anthem, whether it should be changed or not. That is majoritarian tyranny. It's not accepted in democracy, and it doesn't beautify democracy. So that is what we run here. It's to when it pays them, when they want to pretend or grandstand that they go to court like this on issues like this. So do they obey the constitution? Even the one as started as the constitution is, do they obey it? Do they follow the rules?
But Mr. Agbera,
you make law out of parliament without public, what do they call it? Public debate or public contribution. Something as fundamental as an insignia of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, like the national anthem.
Mr. Agbera, our time is fast spent. Let's quickly look at this before we go. The Nigerian Guild of Editors has condemned the increasing sequence of abduction and arrest of journalists in the country by security agencies, especially the Nigerian police force, and they warned of the consequence of such illegal actions on the press freedom. So how do you think this arrest will affect the press freedom in Nigeria?
It's appalling. It's unacceptable. In fact, it's sad and scandalous that is happening in democracy under a government or somebody that have claimed to have fought and resisted government, even military government. Military away. I've said it. If the issue, the clarification is not made about this so-called cyber, what do you call it? Their law, the new law, cybercrime law, and the act of parliament that if the police don't understand it, they will continue to abuse it. So cybercrime law is in Nigeria is just like a decree 4 of Buhari regime. that was arresting journalists and prosecuting and sentencing under Degree 4 recklessly. It is unacceptable to stifle the media in a democracy. If somebody, what is about issue of cyber stalking? When you talk to somebody and the person feels you have impugned on his reputation, there are law, and those are civil cases. The person can sue under the law of libel, under the law of slander, and not using police in a way that is crippling the ethos of democracy, disrupting responsibility for human rights, for human rights issues. Police are under obligation to uphold human rights in Nigeria under the chapter 4 of Nigeria Constitution, and it's very fundamental. Those rights are fundamental, and they should not be derogated through the back door using the so-called Cyber Crime Act. Those are issues that we need to engage frontally now before they begin to shrink the media space and the media right space in Nigeria.
Mr. Boy, what steps can be taken by the Nigerian government and also the security agencies to ensure the protection of journalists and also uphold press freedom?
The first thing is to know that the Constitution of Nigeria has granted the media the responsibility to hold government into account. They should know that journalists are performing their constitutional role, like those in power in the executive, judiciary, and legislature. It's only the media, among all professions, that the Constitution has given that responsibility to. And it's a duty. When they perform duty, the government should realize that their duties are constitutionally guaranteed and they should be supported in democracy. And the thought of those who formed that in our constitution is because they feel that we are going to have a democratically environment of sanity, not this state of anomalies that a government wants to rule by thumb. That was not the expectation. So one, they should appreciate that journalists are performing constitutional duty, even if they go wrong, even if they err. In the process of performance of that duty, there are laws. Even at their professional level, journalists can be dealt with. And under the law of Nigeria, particularly the law of libel, journalists can be dealt with. The law of slander, journalists can be dealt with. But not all this arrest and detention without hope of being released, dehumanization of what the Constitution recognizes as a man performing his duty or a woman performing her duty. So we must first of all know that it's constitutional duty for the journalists to do. And if they err in performance of that duty, avail yourself of the law of libel. And the citizen must know this. And if government is not ready, if government feel that the journalists are performing, it's not just throwing them into detention or throwing people into detention. You take them to court and prosecute immediately without asking the DSS to go and bundle them, and the governor will do the same thing, recklessly acting against the media. And without media, there's no link between the people and government, those in power. It is the media that facilitates such linkage. And what is the essence of democracy if people are not linked with their governments at all levels?
All right, let's end this on a lighter note with Mr. and Mrs. this morning. The first person speaking is Mrs. Mrs. says, yes, I called her husband snatcher. If I ever catch both of you together, I will deal with her. Mr. says, then it's your fault if she succeeded in snatching me.
That is, you have somebody that is conscious of her territory and working hard to defend that territory. protect the territory. But why should it be the fault of the wife if he succeeded? That man must be a very weak man who is hardly responsible at home. And of course, who should know that he has a responsibility to the oath he has taken. And that is the same issue we are talking about our government. It's outsourcing responsibility. The husband is outsourcing his responsibility and duty to the wife by saying it's her fault. If there are problems between Mr. and Mrs., they should resolve it so that they can uphold their own family flag and sing their own national or family anthem together. So that they should stand in, what do I call it, in marriagehood. Even though Nigeria is standing in brotherhood. So they should be in marriagehood and of course defend their territory, protect it, and particularly in the interest of the children that will come out of such marriage or have come out of such marriage. So that we should work together and see how we can redeem ourselves at all levels. We need redemption, even at family level. And more so, Mr. and Mrs., they need redemption. May God help them.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Guru, for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure being with you.
Is the Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. He just reviewed and analyzed some of the stories with us on the front pages this morning. Now, to get more of our top stories, you can follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can also visit our website www.vanguardnj.com to get more of our top stories. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki. Have a lovely